In today's video, we're going to be discussing Venus in the first house. So if you are a natal Venus in the first house, or if Venus is transiting your first house, let's talk about what that means and how you can benefit from this lesser benefic, beautiful planet of abundance and love. Let's get right into the video. So if you're new here, thank you for joining, and I hope you find this educational and enjoyable content. And if you are returning, thank you as well. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate all your comments and questions. It's really interesting to get to know you all. For those of you who don't know, my name is Hazel. I am a professionally trained professional astrologer, tarot reader, palm reader, and other things within the wellness field. I also have my own card deck, and I produce merch as well, which you can check out on my website. Okay, Venus in the first house. Well, I've just written an article on this for my blog, so I thought I would make a video to accompany it as well, because Venus in the first house is very interesting, because I feel that Venus and our ascendant, which of course always lives in the first house, are very similar energies. The first house is about self, it's about identity, it's understanding who we are, and the ascendant offers us a lens through that zodiac sign to perceive the world around us. It governs our personal sense of style and taste, sometimes how we move our body, part of our communication style, because of course it's how we're perceiving the world, and perception of reality is everything. Venus is materialized love in the physical form. So Venus governs our sense of self-worth, self-love, how we love, how we need to be loved, our love language, our material assets, how easy it is for us to accumulate things and wealth, how we spend our money, who we choose to spend our money on, and who we are more compatible with when it comes to our love language and personal sense of freedom and joy and love. Venus holds a lot of energy when it comes to our personal sense of aesthetics, because it is a material planet and it governs material things. And so when you have Venus in the first house, particularly if it's conjunct or anywhere near your ascendant, what you're going to find is that you are much more focused around your personal identity. That can mean that you are you work on that more, or it can mean you don't work on it more because you don't feel like you need to. You're very comfortable with who you are. You're very comfortable with your identity. You're very comfortable with expressing yourselves in whichever way you choose to do. When Venus is in a star sign which is at home or elevated, you have an amplification of that. For example, if you are if your chart ruler is Venus, then you must have a Taurus or a Libra in the first house. So if you have Venus in the first house as well, that means Venus is at home, and so it can resonate even more freely. So that means that your ascendant is really elevated, even if they're not conjunct, then it is still elevated. Your personal sense of identity is expansive, and there's a lot of underlying gratitude for who you are, for the way you look, for your ability to express oneself, for your ability to create wealth. Particularly with Taurus, if Taurus is in your first house and you have Venus in your first house, you're able to acquire and manifest your materialized ideal of how you want to live. Now, whether that's living in a caravan with loads of kids, or whether that's living in a mansion with your partner in the Maldives, and acquiring material money wealth, or acquiring a different kind of wealth, it's still there to be grown. So there is a lot of joy of having Venus, particularly if your Venus is your chart ruler in the first house. So Venus, it can be really intense in the first house if it's in a more intense sign, or if it's in let's say it's exalted in Pisces, your Pisces ascendant and Venus is in your first house. So you are going to really be focused on expressing your inner world and your spirituality and your beliefs, and your fluidity is going to be manifested in the way you dress, in the way you look, in how you interact with people. A good example of this would be someone who is able to like manifest a look or a character that they get really well known for. So like Erykah Badu is a good example of that. So if you don't know who Erykah Badu is, she is a soul singer in America and a musician, and the way she dresses is incredibly unusual and beautiful and self-expansive, and she's always known for being an incredibly well-dressed woman and an incredibly creative, talented genius. And that is really the epitome of what the Venus exalted in the first house would look like. I don't know if she is that placement, but that's the kind of vibe. It's goddess vibe, right? It's like you are the person that you know you are deep down, and you resonate that outwards. So it's very alluring. If you have, whatever sign you are in your first house, if you've got Venus in the first house, you're gonna be aesthetically beautiful, no matter where that spectrum of beauty is. There's something about you which is lovely. It's not just very alluring or very sexual or perfection, or those kind of things are irrelevant. It's more just a general appearance of you are harmonious and you are beautiful. You also attract people. You attract a lot of people. Now that's either romantic partners or lovers or friends, people who you feel a lot of gratitude towards. You can grow families, you can expand on your inner circle, and you might have quite a large inner circle where you have a lot of people who really love you, or you might be more introverted person, but you still have people who want to be your friend. You have people who want to be part of what you're doing, and sometimes you might not, depending on your other placements, you might not even be sure why people want to be part of what you're doing. If you're not an extroverted Venus in the first house, you might be like, why would anyone want to come do this with me? But suddenly everyone does, and that's because you have that magnetic energy of benevolence and goodwill, and you're kind. Yes, you can be opinionated, and that will be obvious in other aspects of the chart, because no chart is perfect, but generally you have goodwill towards people, and that really comes off at face value with you, at the way you interact with others. You're likely to have much more manners, be much more pleasant and easygoing, or at least those attributes come to you more easily than people with Venus in, say, the 8th house. People with Venus in the 8th house tend to be more invested in deeper, brooding aspects of Venus. They're not as jovial, they're a bit more serious, they have more weight to that Venus energy, and it's felt and it's noticed, and we pick up on people's ascendants, we pick up on people's energies, because of course that's why we're attracted to some people and not others, because Venus is our love language, and it is expressing all that. So most people are going to be attracted in some way, whether it's platonically or harmoniously, or they just want to smile at them. If you've got Venus in your first house, you are pleasant. Generally speaking, you're pleasant, and you're pleasant to be around. When Venus is transiting our first house, what we are really focusing on is how we utilize those Venusian elements when it comes to our sense of self-worth. So a good example of this would be, we might want to invest in more self-care, and that can be physical self-care, like pampering ourselves, facials, massages. We might want to give our hair a treatment, or take a deep bath, go for a long walk to nurture our mental health. When it comes to buying clothes, we're more likely to spend money on things which make us feel better. So when Venus is transiting your first house, my first house is Libra, so when Venus transits my Libra, I'm probably gonna revert back to my ratchet self of like maximalism with my style, and because that's where my comfort zone is, right? That's where my sense of identity is it's like all or nothing with that Libra scale. So I'm going to be more focused maybe around buying clothes, around experimenting with maximalism. When it comes to finances, when Venus is transiting our first house, we might be more prone to spending money on ourselves. So what appeases us, investing in ourselves, maybe it could even be like, you know, starting a business which is you're the CEO of, or you're at the forefront of, or it's your baby, it's your idea, you've birthed this idea and you want it to expand and grow, and you're the head of this idea, you're the brand, you know, like influencer energy. That's Venus transit in the first house. Because of that, if you do have money blockages and you do have a what I call a scarcity mentality, where you're worried about not having enough, that can create issues with your spending, because you're probably going to spend money on stuff that you don't use. You know, you could go to the supermarket or to like a hair shop or something. You buy loads of products and loads of things with the intention of improving your appearance, only to find that A, it either doesn't work, or you've already got those things at home already, you're buying double, there's too much now, you didn't need it in the first place. So when Venus is transiting your first house, there is a risk with stuff like that. On the other hand, positive expressions of Venus and spending money would be to invest in yourself. So you're investing in new routines, you might be investing in a healthcare program, or you might be investing in going to the gym. You know, you start a new gym membership, because that is helping your self-worth. That is something that you want to focus on, and it's elevating you in some way. So there's a lot of room for growth here with Venus in the first house. I have seen as well in birth charts, Venus in the first house people tend to have a lot of children. Excuse me. So normally the fifth house is associated with kids, and the seventh house relationships. But in my experience, Venus first house people have this expansive idea of family. So everyone is their family. If you are their friend, if you are their work colleague, if you are their blood relative, or ascribed family, legal family, whatever it is, they're going to bring you into the fold. If they, you know, if they love you and or you want to be there, then they will accept you. And so because of that, if they chose to, they could have a lot of children as well, because there is enough room for them to love as many people as is on earth. They just have unconditional grace, and they also have a lot of gratitude for their self and their position in life. irrespective of what that position in life is, they have some gratitude there, some deep down understanding that they are loved. This can be really useful if you have had a really challenging life, if you're not in a good place right now, or if you've had a difficult childhood, because you having that Venus transit in your first house gives you a window into what that unconditional love looks like. If you're a natal Venus in the first house and you have had difficult times, as I've described, you've still got that feeling of like, somebody loves me somewhere. I am worthy in some way, even if it's only to be accountable to myself. And that can be really useful when you're going through a challenging time. That can be really useful. And if you aren't there with it yet, or you've had those issues in the past and you've turned it round, it's because you are working on yourself, and you start to understand that as a breakthrough through the ascendant. So by working with the ego, you start to listen to your Venus in the first house more, and that can be super useful. I think I've come to the end of this video now. I just wanted to make it a little bit shorter and a bit quicker so you could enjoy yourselves. I filmed quite a few videos today and I've got a little bit of a cold. So hopefully I don't sound too bad, and you've enjoyed my content. And don't forget to go and check out my Magical Folklore Lenormand deck. It's a beautiful card deck which I brought out, and my tote bags as well, and readings and everything else I do, and that's on my website, which is www.hextarot.com. I'll leave a link in the description below. I'll put a link in the video to my Venus in all 12 houses, and I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.